Hello everyone, I'm Kim and welcome to my sewing room. I hope you're all really well and are having a lovely day. I thought I would spend this video reflecting on my makes of 2024 and really taking what I've learnt from all of what I did last year into what I'm going to do this year. So throughout the series, I took various videos of myself in my garments, and I had a really good look at myself and how those garments fitted. And I have realised that over the last year, 18 months, I have put on weight, and therefore it has had obviously an effect on how my garments have fitted. So though they are a bit snug, I really do need to revisit my sizing this year, because there's a bit of pulling of fabric in the front across my bust and things aren't falling over my hips as well as they should do. So I'm going to revisit sizing, try not to be intimidated by that number on the back of the sewing pattern, because I know it has no relevance at all to the actual size of clothes that we buy in the shops, and I need to just concentrate on my bust, waist and hip measurements. But I also need to look at where my where my bust, my waist and my hips naturally fall in line with the pattern that I'm using, and also look at sleeve length, because I had noticed looking back on those videos that many a time I was talking about how short I felt the sleeves were. So I really do need to not just look at the standard measurements, but just take it a little bit further and just double check where the bust hits, where the waist and the hips hit. Is the sleeve long enough for me in that particular garment that I've chosen to make? So I'm going to really sort of slow myself down a bit and do a little bit more preparation before I get to the fabric cutting stage, because I found also that going through the process of making clothes like I have been, I have cut into some really beautiful fabric and ended up with a garment which has either been too snug or too tight in the waist or the bust. The sleeves have been too short. So I really do need to just slow down, take a step back and do a little bit more preparation. And because I've decided to do that, and through all the comments that have come in through that series of videos, a lot of you have really liked the fact that I have gone through each of the patterns and explained them a bit more, and some of the challenges that I had with them, some of the design features that didn't live up to expectations, all that sort of thing. I think that is one thing I want to take forward, is when I do start sewing up my new garments for 25, is that I've taken into consideration sizing and everything else, and I show you what I've done as well, so that it's helping you progress as a sewist as well, because I know quite a lot of you are new to sewing and you're very keen to learn techniques and how we do things. And to be honest with you, this year has been a learning curve for me as well, because I have learned so much this year. I have learned let's get my little notebook. I have learnt through bag making, for instance, I have learnt how to do some quilting using a foam stabilizer and quilting for bags. Some of the coasters I made, the Christmas placement mats were quilted, and also the binding that I put on some of these projects. I hadn't done binding much in the past, so it was a great opportunity to learn how to sew binding and just get some practice in, because that in itself is a technique, and I've realized that you need to just slow down a bit and just take your time. And I've really enjoyed making bags this year, so that there will be more of those coming in 25. The other things I also learnt this year were through making the bags, we're using different stabilizers, because normally in dressmaking I only use probably 1 or 2 different stabilizers to stiffen collars and cuffs, etc. But in bag making there are a lot of different stabilizers. There's foam stabilizers, and there's a really heavy, like card-like stabilizers that give structure to bags. So I've learnt a little bit about those this year. A few firsts for me this year was using interlining on a jacket. So I made my husband a jacket. When I got the fabric through, the fabric was a lot lighter than I wanted it to be. So the way around that was to adhere interlining to it to give it more weight. And because I did that, I also had to line the jacket because the interlining was fluffy. It was a bit like brushed cotton. And I knew that I would have to probably line the jacket. And in the end, I decided that that was the right move. And I lined the jacket. So it was the first time I had used interlining, and also the first time that I had lined a jacket. And that jacket has been worn by my husband a lot. So it justifies the fact that just going that extra few steps to make a more professional wearing comfortable garment is testament to all of the hard work that put into that one particular garment. And I get so much pleasure out of watching him wear that garment, that I know that all the decisions I made and the length of time, the extra length of time it took me to get to the end of that garment were well worth it. So that was quite a good learning curve for me. It's just, if you need to do something and there's something in your head that is telling you, it would be better if you did this, you have to go with your gut feeling. And that garment for me it's up there in one of my top 5 makes. So I'm really pleased with learning about interlining and lining, and I hopefully will do more of that this year. This year I'd also thought that I'd like to use some different fabric types. Majority of the time, because I am primarily a shirt wearer, says she who's all dressed in jersey, I am primarily a shirt wearer. I do make lots of shirts, so therefore I sew a lot of cotton, that I want to start moving into different fabric bases like chiffon and satin, and just more, I suppose, difficult to work with fabrics, just to extend my sewing capabilities and learn from that, because I've been gradually moving into sewing stretchy fabrics and I'm enjoying that process at the moment. And I'm still at early stages learning how to use jersey fabrics and understanding the weight of fabrics and the composition of fabrics, and really how it all comes together and how it all works. And because I want to learn more about composition and weight, I will be purchasing more samples as I go forward, because I think really through the pandemic we lost a lot of our brick and mortar fabric stores, and majority of fabrics we buy now are online, and you really don't know what you're going to get until it turns up and you can physically feel it. And I know from experience that I bought things in the past, like my husband's jackets fabric, for instance, that stuff has come in and it's not been what I expected, and therefore it gets put into the stash. So I need to just get more samples in so that I can understand fabric more before I take that next step to actually physically buying the fabric. Fabric these days isn't as cheap as it used to be, and it can be an expensive mistake if you do something wrong, and you also don't want to end up with fabric in your stash which you will probably not use. And I have been collecting fabric for over 40 years, and I have also decided this year that I'm going to have a really good clear out of fabric. So anything I know I will not use, I'm going to destash. I'm going to do that on my fabrics, and I'm also going to do that on my patterns. I've actually started working on my patterns already, so there will be a video about that coming soon. But I have learned a tremendous amount this year, and I'm quite excited about sewing going forward. and I've been thinking a lot about my wardrobe and how I want my wardrobe to work in 25. And I've noticed, and I've mentioned this before, that when I make something, 9 times out of 10 I haven't got anything to go with it. So I need to make my wardrobe more cohesive, work with plain fabrics, not just these beautiful pattern fabrics that we all love, but also to incorporate plain fabrics into my wardrobe, so I have things that just work together. So I'm not struggling to find something to go with a beautiful shirt that I've just made and I've got nothing to go with it. I must admit, sometimes when I go out I look like a hippie because I'm a real mishmash of colour. Definitely can't lose me in a crowd, but it's really not the style I'm going for. But I just need to be a little bit more disciplined about making things and joining them up before I go off on another tangent and make something in a print. So that's another thing that I want to seriously look at this year. And there are a couple of things that I have never made. I've never made a coat, and I did dabble a little bit a couple of years ago in bra making and making knickers or briefs, and that wasn't successful. And even though I spent time making bras for a while and trying to get the fit right, I suddenly went off on a tangent and never came back to it. So I would like to come back to looking at bra making, effectively making my own underwear and also making my first coat. And if I can accomplish that this year, it will mean that I am effectively making 100% of what I wear, excluding jumpers. But I will probably go into more serious knitting later on in the year. I just want to really start my sewing journey and just start working on that first before I bring in jumpers. I have also decided not to subscribe to any subscription boxes because I want to be in control of what I buy, and I need to also slow down my fabric purchasing. I know it would be madness for me to say I'm going to stop completely, because I don't think that will ever happen, but I feel that I need to make my purchases for things that I'm actually going to make, not just buy fabric because I feel I can't live without it in my life, and for it to then sit in my stash for years on end before I even get around to making it. So I've made a promise to myself that I can still buy fabric, but I need to know that it is for a reason. I will be doing more bag making this year and going off on all my different tangents that I do. I will continue to do my quilting, and I didn't show you any of my quilts through my Makes of 24 because they are still in progress and they are such slow projects that they will just pop up every so often. So I will sort of show you how I'm getting on with those. So hopefully you will look forward to my future videos and that you've enjoyed the content of this video. And if you have, it'd be lovely if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you all very soon. Take care. Bye.